The views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WTJX, its board, staff, or underwriters.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Recovery in Focus. I'm Adrienne Williams-Octalien. Coordination, collaboration, and communication, the 3 C's, are the buzzwords of the recovery and a foundation for getting multi-construction and infrastructure projects off the ground, better yet, in the ground. And we have just the right people in the room to discuss how we can make that happen. But first, here's the most recent updates on recovery projects throughout the territory.
From the WTJX studio on St. Croix, I'm Larissa Ellis. Construction is wrapping up on the second phase of the Melvin Evans Highway. New poles and streetlights have already been installed from the Hannah's Rest intersection to Williams Delight. The Department of Public Works expects that the remaining drainage, shoulder, and paving work from the Good Hope intersection to Williams Delight will be completed by October 2023. Tenants are already calling the newly revitalized Walter I. M. Hodge housing community in Frederiksted home. Lydia Pell, Chief Operating Officer for the Virgin Islands Housing Authority, gives us an update.
In the process of completing phase 1, the first 7 buildings have been completed, and we're in the process of leasing up the last 2 buildings in that phase. Work has begun on phases 2 and 3. Again, as you look at the buildings, you see a great transformation from how Walter I. M. Hodge used to be to what it is now, more modern, more resilient. We've also improving the site amenity, the landscaping, the sidewalks, the curbs, roadways are all concrete now, no more asphalt. And again, we'll be adding playgrounds, gazebos, benches, etc. Will be added to the site.
Residents are currently occupying 5 of the completed buildings, and we had an opportunity to sit down with Shaniqua Joseph, who shared her thoughts on the transition to her new apartment and the renovations.
It's a good move, and moving from one of the old building into the new building, it was very smooth. They guide us with boxes and tape for our packaging. They help us get people to move us over into the new building. And in the new apartments is nice. We have ceiling fans to try to keep the place cool, and the renovation and all is good. I feel a bit more relieved to stay here during hurricane, being that it's hurricane resistant. We're happy to see that they put plants outside and the nice buildings nicely painted.
In case you missed it, the Department of Planning and Natural Resources celebrated the completion of the Elaine Ione Sproul Public Library on St. John on June 14, 2023. Governor Bryan, Lieutenant Governor Tregenza Roach, other government officials, representatives of the Sproul family, and the community were all in attendance. Funded by approximately $308,000 from FEMA and $150,000 from local funds, Governor Bryan noted the need for the territory to provide supplemental funding to complete recovery projects.
We didn't want to turn over something that was half done, so we had to find local money and other money in order to get it to where it is, because we want to turn over good products. What's the use of you have a new library and it's not painted, or the bathrooms aren't done? A lot of the things FEMA didn't cover, so in a lot of our projects. So we continue to get that done. It's been a long time coming, but it's going to be worth every single second because it's a beautiful place.
DPNR's Commissioner, Jean P. Oriole, gave his thoughts on the project's completion.
This ribbon cutting represents the completion of DPNR's first FEMA-funded project. Today, we are happy to return that hope and that energy, and to make good on the Brian Roach administration's promise to improving the quality of life for all Virgin Islanders, and especially here on St. John today.
During a live stream on August 3rd, the Virgin Islands Department of Health shared the start of the second phase of demolition work at the Charles Harwood Medical Complex in Christiansted. Commissioner Justa Encarnacion, members of her team, and the contractor were on site to witness this pivotal project milestone. Once reconstructed, the modern medical facility will house the Dr. Donna Christensen Department of Health, who was also on site to witness the demolition of the former annex.
Today's initial start, and to watch Charles Harwood as it blossoms into a new health facility to bring health and wellness to this community.
Work is ongoing and should be complete in the spring of 2024. Business owners, contractors, and consultants interested in doing business with the recovery should visit the ODR website for an updated list of open bid announcements and detailed information. This month, the Virgin Islands Waste Management Authority is seeking licensed contractors for the design build of 3 convenience centers on St. Croix. And the Virgin Islands Housing Authority is requesting proposals from licensed demolition contractors to demolish structures and other materials in Tutu on St. Thomas. For more information on these and other open bid announcements, as well as up-to-date news on all disaster recovery projects in the territory, log on to www.usviodr.com.
Well, we can't move the recovery forward without contractors, so make sure you take advantage of these opportunities and get your bid in. I'm eager to get the conversation going and to discuss all the progress residents can now see because of the group's efforts behind the scenes. I'd like to welcome to the show none other than Commissioner Derek Gabriel, the Department of Public Works, who's on the move. And, you know, their department anchors utilities and will also get more from everyone who's on the set today. And he'll be my wingman for the show. Welcome.
Thank you.
This will not be a utility coordination discussion without the Water and Power Authority. So joining us is Kimberly Sladden, our Water Systems Manager of Design and Construction, and Shavante Marsh, Director of Projects on the power side. All right, seems like we're outnumbered because who run the world? All right, well, we have a lot of major complex projects across the Virgin Islands to discuss. So let's get into it, starting with St. Croix on the east side and business owners in Christiansted for years about road conditions. Many questioned DPW, didn't finish paving all the roads, and when the agency resurfaced, you just passed through a couple. So, utility coordination is critical.
Right.
And the fact that it takes all these utility agencies together, making it happen at the same time, how much frustration does this cause you?
Well, I wouldn't say frustration, right? We call it opportunities, right? Challenges present opportunities. You talked about Christiansted. I think Christiansted, we tried to really wait for waste management to catch up because we didn't want to pave the roads, have them have to come back in to dig them up, put in the wastewater infrastructure, and then we wouldn't have any money to do the paving. So we actually held off on that project, pushed some other projects forward, prioritize those to give the Waste Management Authority a chance to catch up so that they could start doing their undergrounding. And then once all of that is done, we come in and do paving, and the residents of Christiansted can have some wonderful roads to drive on.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about the specific projects, but overall, utility coordination, you're at the anchor. DPW is at the anchor of utility coordination. So overall, what does that mean and leading that charge?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I think it really requires a lot of communication with the utilities, particularly the Water and Power Authority and, of course, Waste Management Authority. And we're also speaking to our private sector partners as well on the telecommunication side. So we're working with Liberty, we're working with VIA. As you know, we have a number of coordination meetings. We have bi-weekly meetings, monthly meetings. I feel like we're about to get daily meetings as most of these projects kick off. But really, it's about everybody checking their respective egos at the door, if you will, Director, and coming in to do what's best on behalf of the people of the territory. So we're doing a lot of coordination, a lot of communication, and these ladies know because they're actually in the trenches.
All right, in the trenches. Well, the Senate has mandated one dig.
Right.
And what does one dig actually mean?
Digging once, right? That literally means trying to do everything in the spirit of one dig. Once the roads are open, we give the power side a chance to go in and do their undergrounding. Of course, the water side a chance to go in and do their undergrounding. We're really trying to start with waste management. So they are the ones that go at the bottom of the trench.
Right.
You know, they are the first ones that go in, trying to get them to catch up. They're a little bit behind, but really, the spirit of one dig essentially means just everybody doing their undergrounding once the roads are open.
You know, it's actually easier said than done.
Way easier said than done.
Because the funding comes from many different sources,
Right.
and they don't all come at the same time. And before you can actually complete a project, you need to make sure that everyone's ready to go. They may not all be ready to go at the same time. You need to put it out to bid. You may have multiple contractors. Contractors don't like to do work behind of each other. Just a number of challenges. So, you know, from your perspective, and we all sit and you talked about having regular meetings
Right.
to coordinate. What does it mean to actually get this done correctly? And what kind of cost savings? And what's the real viability of us digging just once?
Right. Well, I think a lot of the success for construction starts in design. So what we've been doing, we've actually signed an MOU. It's actually making its way through, so that once we have one design firm on hand doing a project, we can make sure that they are doing design for everybody. So on the water side, the wastewater side, and of course on the electrical side, it's a little bit different. But we are trying to do some coordination there in the design phase, because that means success in construction. And of course, if everybody's design is finished at the same time, that means we can do construction at the same time, we can do procurement at the same time. It works for everyone.
All right. Well, you know, if you've driven through Christiansted in the last couple of months, I'm sure you've seen the ongoing construction. Well, we got an opportunity to get a first-hand update on the status of the sewer line replacement project from Ronald Phillips, project engineer at the Virgin Islands Waste Management Authority. So let's take a look.
The project started on May 15, 2023. The contractor is Marco St. Croix, and currently, right now, we're in the area of Queen on Strand Street, which is the street that's going down to the casino, or also going down to the boardwalk in Christiansted. We're in the process of actually replacing the sewer lines as we speak. We've taken out 6-inch clay pipes, and we're replacing them with 8-inch PVC pipe. As a few days ago, the contractor has installed over 10,000 linear feet of pipe. The entire project is to replace all of the sewer line in Christiansted, which is going to be over 30,000 linear feet of pipe. So the project currently is a third of the way complete. We got 20 more thousand feet of pipe to put in. Some of the streets that we completed are Queen Street, East Street, Fisher Street, Market Street. Those are the streets that the Department of Public Works is going to completely pave. So we got to finish those streets by October. Once this project is completed, the benefit is that the existing lines, which are mostly concrete, cast iron, and clay, has been installed for over a period of 50 years. So they actually reach to the end of their lifespan. And some of the lines that are leaking, so what you have is that you have wastewater that's going into the ground. And once the water goes into the ground, that creates contamination. The one major thing it's going to do is going to prevent any what we call manhole overflowing, because the line is clogged. Because sometimes when a line has eventually when a line start developing holes, and normally that's happened, debris gets into it and then the water can't flow. And once the water can't flow, what normally happens is the manhole will start overflowing. But the impact of the resident and the business is that you can't flush your toilet, you can't take a shower, you can't use the kitchen sink. And eventually all that sewage backs up into the homes of the businesses. So this project here is going to eliminate all of that from happening.
Well, I mean, I started to cringe a minute talking. Can't flush, can't bathe, you can't. This is really a critical project for the town of Christiansted. You know, when we talk about doing these immense infrastructure projects, there's a lot of inconvenience, but it's for the greater good. Do people really always understand the complexity of the projects and what it takes in order to get done? But you know, do they appreciate it at the end?
I would think so. You know, as we're out there, as different contractors are out there, I've heard residents providing fruit and thanking them. You know, sometimes it's different situation. Dust is an unusual issue, especially during dry season. But I think knowing the impact that repairing these lines, creating new pump stations, undergrounding lines, being more resilient to storms, it's a huge improvement. So I think people get that.
Absolutely, you saw the condition of some of the pipes that were clay, and now we're actually becoming more resilient. That's part of the process and the importance of the projects.
Yeah, and I think for us, it really leads to also infrastructure that can last for decades to come, right? Something that really enhances our community from the ground up. You know, so we're setting ourselves up for growth and success in the future.
All right. Well, you know, while we were in the area, we also spoke to a few people to get their thoughts on the project. Let's see, Kimberly, if they, you know, that's what the folks had to say. So take a listen.
As a worker of Lace Legacy, I think the sewage line improvement is, you know, is great. It does slow down our business a lot. We don't get a lot of foot traffic. Being that we are now in hurricane season, I feel that this is kind of a preparation that we kind of needed.
So I think improvements, especially with the roads or with whatever this is, electrical or whatever, is always a wonderful thing. So I'm happy about that. But my first thought is if it's already difficult now with parking, what's going to happen in the season when the parking in the last few years has been really difficult? That's my only concern, traffic and parking.
I feel that the improvements that are being made with the sewage is very needed in the town of Christiansted, because before this started, the sewage was real bad. You will walk on the boardwalk, that smell will hit you. You park your car, you take that walk, that smell will hit you. So I feel now the businesses, short term, they will be affected in a bad way because, you know, they won't have the foot traffic. But in the long term, that smell and all that will go away. So in the short term, it's bad for the moment, but in the long term, I feel like it will really benefit the town.
Oh, I think that last speaker was spot on.
Progress comes with a little bit of pain, right?
Just a little bit of pain, you know, but the Waste Management Authority did their due diligence. They went from business to just notify them, like, this is what's going on. You won't be able to park on some of the streets on the roadside, you know, but you need to go into the government parking lot. And this is going to be a 2-year project. And, you know, so it really requires some patience. It really requires understanding, but I think the residents of Christiansted can appreciate that. I know that prevented you from getting your paving project moving.
But I'm glad to hear Ron say that we're prioritizing the roads that we know we have pavement projects coming for, right? We do have a grant sitting there waiting, so we're ready and ripping and roaring and ready to go. But I do thank you for the plug. You know, I want to encourage people to park in our parking lot. That is really the best place to park when we're doing construction on the roads.
All right. Well, and you're not though DPW is not the only utility stakeholder that have work going on in Christiansted, but there's also an undergrounding project for Queen Street in Christiansted as well for the Water and Power Authority.
Yes, so alongside with DPW and Waste Management, we have a few projects in the Feeder 1A and Feeder 2A that affect Queen Street, Queen Cross Street, Little Fisher, as well as Little Hospital Street. And we do have to coordinate with not only the other utilities, but the business owners and the residents as well. So that we look forward to these projects, and it's definitely going to be resilient and even beautification for the Christiansted area.
All right, well, you know, that requires coordination. So now you are looking at streets that overlap, if I heard you correctly, Commissioner, and making sure that you keep the residents of Christiansted involved, aware of, you know, what the plans are going forward.
Communication is key.
It absolutely is. Well, you know, the long-awaited Clifton Hill project is another example of high-level coordination with WAPA Power, WAPA Water, DPW. We spoke to one of the project managers, Brad Marshall, and he gave us some details.
This project began in the summer of 2020, and they're scheduled to be completed around October of this year. So far, they've completed placing all of the base asphalt mix. They've completed the fence. They've completed, I guess, about 50% of the sidewalk work. Also, they've completed all of the drainage structures. We have planned after this, in the next 2 months, we're going to continue the sidewalk work. We're going to put in a paved waterway. Also, we're going to have to do the final surfacing, and we have the signalization system that we need to install. That should happen in about 2 weeks. We have the poles here on site, so they'll begin that work in about 2 weeks. We ask motorists to please pay attention to the flaggers on site. We have signs posted to caution motorists to slow down, please obey the speed limits. Doing over 20 miles per hour endangers not only yourself, but also our staff that's on site. So please slow down.
All right. Well, Brad Marshall's a part of your team, correct?
Sure is.
And he was, I really took to heart the caution that he's provided to the motorists, because usually if, I travel to the seaplane in the morning and I usually hump in, they're not there yet because it's almost like 7 to 7. But as we move along, keeping updated with what's going on with the project, I would ask my team, did you see any work going on over there at Clifton Hill? But there's a lot, and we're seeing October.
Yes.
Is what we're looking at.
So right now, I do want to caution people because we are entertaining a change order to add more street lights on the highway.
Street lights. Street
So
lights.
it may go a little bit longer, but it's for a good cause. For a good cause.
Well, I was about to put you on blast, but we're not going to do that. We're like, we are great. I'm glad that you are working on. We know that a portion of the lights that has already been installed, and there's a gap that you found some dollars to.
We did. I do want to thank my colleague, to my left. Thank you for always coming in the clutch and assisting us to find, whenever we're trying to rub pennies together to make some quarters, we always come to you, and you're creative. So I appreciate that.
Well, not a problem. You're always on the move, so we don't mind. We don't mind helping folks who are on the move. And speaking of on the move, the Clifton Hill Water Line Project created some great opportunity and relief to the residents of Clifton Hill.
Definitely. We actually are finishing up this week while we're recording. So the end of the month of August will be done. Residents have been seeing that final paving, patching up over the trenches and making those roads drivable. We were installing pipes since last summer, and we did have some coordination with DPW because that Route 75, Clifton Hill Road, was relocated to the east, and there was a lot of grading. Actually, a big cut was made. So our water line design needed to accommodate and follow that grading of the road. So like, you need your pipe to be buried, and that road was changing location. So it was a great experience because we had meetings in the field, we had meetings in the office, we had our utility coordination meetings, and just thank you all who helped make that happen. I think it really is coming together beautifully. Like, that storm drainage is wonderful. That light, hopefully that intersection is safer with the cutback. So really excited about that. And we also had some electric undergrounding that was part of that.
Yes.
Container port heading south.
So, the residents, when you pass Central High and coming over, and then all the dust and the dirt and there's a certain amount of inconvenience, but rest assured that the utilities are working together, trying to minimize the inconvenience that's being caused, and they're major projects. The Clifton Hill, I'm looking forward to not having the traffic delays because we'll have that traffic sign. And this project was in the making for how many years?
It's been a while. I think we started the design in the early 2000s. We had our first attempt, like Brad said, in 2020, and now we're back out here in 2023. It shows you how complicated it is for these projects, and then we had to slow down because we were trying to accommodate WAPA, of course, on the water side and on the electrical side. So that's the true spirit of utility coordination, right? Sometimes keeping some projects back and prioritizing others to really accommodate your utility partners.
In addition to the water project, as you were mentioning at Clifton Hill, WAPA also completed some undergrounding. And that, making a power reliable is so critical.
Right.
And they completed a lot of that work over there in a container port road. So, Shavante, give us a little bit of background.
So in the container port area, as well as the Midland area, our engineers worked really hard with our project managers to complete that section. As mentioned, we coordinated with DPW. Even our PIOs, we had to send out press release often for our outages. So we completed that within the last few months. We do have some work that's still ongoing. We do have some work that WAPA is going to finish on the secondaries. but we did complete 100%, for example, on the Midland project, we did 100% of our underground facilities, and that's fully completed.
So I only spent like 2 days in engineering school. So what's a secondary? It's like after the firstary, what?
Oh yeah, so the secondary is actually how it's getting to our customers' homes. So we do have the primary lines, that's our larger voltages, but we do have to step down the voltage so that we can provide power to our customers. So that's basically from our transformer to from the transformer to the meter.
So what does that mean? So after a storm, now that we have undergrounding in that area, what does that actually mean for the residents?
So we're going to mitigate a lot of risk from debris falling, high winds. So our customers are going to feel that level of relief that when they see a Category 3, Category 4 hurricane come, they're going to know that they're not going to have a tree that's going to knock down their line right in front of their home. So it'll be more reliable, and we'll be able to bring up power a lot quicker after our actual storm.
Well, I'm going to test out your skill because we met with one of the WAPA's electrical engineers, Suresh Sukraj, and he has some details for us on the efforts of that undergrounding project.
The first is the Container Port Underground Project, the Midland Underground Project, and the Golden Grove Underground Project. Currently, I'm here at the Golden Grove Underground Project site, and behind me you'll see some of the electrical equipment that will transition from overhead infrastructure to underground. So here we have a transformer, and next to me we have a junction box, which some of the equipment we use as we transition for the period to feed the customers via secondary devices. Although the construction for all three of these projects is 100% completed, there's still some secondary work that needs to be done internally.
All right, so we actually learned what secondaries were, so we were able to understand what Crush was talking about, which is perfect. But we're not having any hurricanes for a very long time. All right, I just want to level set that. But if in the event of a storm, what does the undergrounding now within Midland? Is it a continuation of the work that needs to be done to connect Frederiksted? How does the Clifton Hill and the Midland project work for the entire power system in the territory, on St. Croix?
So on the primary side, it helps us because we created reliability in some of our critical infrastructures, like the container port section with all of our shipping areas. Midland we have critical facilities like medical complexes, residents, and then he mentioned Golden Grove, where we have the Golden Grove facilities, as well as DMV. So for the entire territory, the underground projects ties back into our substation, which is basically the area where our Midland substation. And then we basically will continue on our additional projects going into Frederiksted, as well as going on to Mid-Island, like the Queen Mary Highway project, and all of the additional projects that we have upcoming that's currently in the engineering and RFP phases.
All right, she just looks like she's a tiddlywink, right? You see all that power that she packs, right? Who run the world?
Girls.
All right, just checking. But that's critical for us to become more resilient. And when those FEMA dollars are obligated to the territory, it's really to make us more resilient. And we're just so happy to see a whole lot of that in progress. Well, we have similar efforts going on the west side of St. Croix with the water replacement and expansion. There's work going on in Campo Rico. Shout out to all folks in the Campo Rico area. And we met up with Kwame Simmons. He's a mechanical engineer at WAPA who has some specifics on the efforts there.
This project so far is about 60% through its original scope. And it's been making very good progress since they broke ground in March 2023. So for our next steps, we are working on expanding how many customers we'll be serving with this project. We would like to ask any motorists or pedestrians to take care when operating your vehicles or walking near active machinery, as these machines can be dangerous and we want to prevent any accidents happening. Right now, the contractor is installing C900 PVC pipe, which is an improvement over the ductile iron pipes that have been servicing the Virgin Islands for the last 60 years. These pipes will increase our system service reliability. It will be more resilient to leaks, and that upgrade, along with upgrades to our meter boxes, our meters, and our whole system, will increase the level of service we can provide to our customers.
All right, so that ductile iron piping equals what?
Well, with its age, right?
Brown water, right?
Yeah, there's you can get corrosion, brown water. You can also have leaks, brittleness of the pipe if you're replacing an issue on the ductile iron pipe, and then you get new pipe in, and then further down the pipe breaks again.
Right.
You see that a lot in our WIM area, which is near Campo Rico. The system is definitely aged. So when we replace these pipes with our rehab projects, we call it rehabilitation. So we're servicing the areas that existing customers are on. We're looking at these new pipes that are designed to last a lot longer, C900 PVC, polyvinyl chloride. And they come in 20-foot sections. We connect them, and then you get a service line which serves commercial or residential customers that ties into that line, and it comes up towards your parcel boundary. And we're working on standardizing the right-of-way where we place those meter boxes, so it's easier to read, it's easier to service, to shut down, or to find a leak. These projects also have new valves. So a valve will allow us to close down the route of the water to isolate an area if there's a leak or an issue. So
you actually saying that now you don't have to shut off all the water in the entire Campo Rico, because now you have some shut-off valves to address
it will help
areas?
Yes, so it will help. When we do these tie-ins, though, that's where we do our press releases, where we connect these new large systems to our main lines that are still in need of repair and updating. But that's when we have to shut down larger areas in order to energize these new systems, fill them with water, pressurize them. And you have to do that before you can switch over the customers, make sure the water quality is right, the pressure is right, there's no leaks, and then you can do final paving. So when you see the roads and trenches that are not final finish, that is why it's taking long. These tie-ins, you got to install the pipe, do the tie-ins. There's many phases, as well as other utilities, right? Waste Management has service laterals for sewer. We've got secondaries that we've heard from.
It's that secondary thing again.
So ours are called service lines.
Okay.
So yeah, it should really help our service reliability, because we can operate and the valves will work.
All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, quality of the water, everything now this is funding through our EPA grants.
Yes.
For clean water, drinking water, potable water lines, and making sure that our lines are more resilient. So, just watching these federal dollars at work, it is pretty irritating to be driving through those roads. I'm not gonna lie, all that dust and the trenches and the really bad roads, but it's all for a good cause, and we continue to ask the public for their patience as we work to make the Virgin Islands stronger. I'm going to ask a tough question on everyone's mind, Commissioner. When are the project on the highway going to finish?
So that's a great question. Just so for informational purposes, we do have two separate projects on the highway going on. Of course, we have the Melvin Evans Rehabilitation Project being done by VI Paving, which is on the highway proper, like I like to call it. And then we have the Clifton Hill project, which is working in the Clifton Hill area, which we just heard from Brad, right? We heard from our project manager. But we're also expanding that project to include streetlights on the remainder of the highway. That is something that we've been listening to our public. We know it is a real safety concern. So we've asked the contractor on Clifton Hill, which is Gray Civil, to give us, let us know what it would be like to assess and then restore the lights that need to be done. So they just gave us that pricing. We are doing our assessments. The good thing is, I don't think I'll be needing to come to you to
that's always a good thing.
So we are looking at, I do want to caution the public. We hope that we should have significant progress before the end of 2023, which is why we are likely going to see that that completion date for Clifton Hill push a little bit further to the right.
Okay.
Okay. But
All
we
right.
are
So,
looking forward
so
to
you're
getting that
keeping the project open so we could actually complete everything that
Correct.
needs to happen. All
Right.
Well, we're having a little bit of patience. With the lights and the maintenance, who's responsible for the maintenance of the lights?
Who run the world again? These ladies, right? No. So we've been working very well with WAPA. We have been really working with them to try to delineate some of the areas that we're putting up new street lights, try to standardize them so that their maintenance job is a lot easier. I do understand that, as we've gone in through time, the street lights weren't really standardized. They are responsible for the maintenance, but we're working together to make this done and make it better for all of us.
Oh, teamwork makes the dream work. But we're looking forward. We're going to test you where you're always welcome to come back and let the public know what's the status of the street lights.
Of course.
All right.
All right.
DPW was awarded funding also to resurface the roads in Frederickstead town, and Kimberly Slotin and the rest of her water team did some work down there, but you still have funding to pave the roads.
Right. So we are utilizing a Department of Interior grant, a DOI grant, to do the repaving in that area. And again, that was another example of our utility coordination. WAPA did run into some severe challenges when they were doing water line replacement in Frederickstead. So we had to be patient. Luckily, our federal partners were willing to understand that. So we actually did phase 1 last year, and now we are wrapping up phase 2, which also includes drainage improvements as well.
All right, WAPA, we mentioned WAPA did some work in that area. That was started back in
2016 for phase 1.
Wow.
That was Strand Street and out towards the bulkhead for the cruise ships. The work in the majority of the town area was 2019 through 2021. We went as far out south as Fisher Street. That's where we did our tie-ins. So we didn't replace that line. There were other smaller sections left out, but majority of that system has been activated and operating for a while now.
All right, well, we were the roving reporters and we went out to Frederickstead to speak with a couple of residents about the water service in their neighborhood. So let's listen.
I live at 65 Estate Wim, and the condition of the water, it's like coffee. It's very brown. And anything you wash with it, it stains it. It doesn't come out. Well, it's very important for residents to have very clean water, because especially when you have kids. Remember, kids, that you can always be around them, but when they use the water, you expect the water is good water for them to use. Some of them will drink it, so it has to be clean.
The water is brown. We can't use it, ma'am, in nothing. I have to buy water in the store to make coffee for everything, because the water, we can't use it. The only thing we could do with the water is flush the toilet.
So I'm sure there's an explanation for a lot of the work that was done and why there's still brown water coming through the pipes in Frederickstead.
So even though the pipes in the Frederickstead area were repaired, the water is coming from where we produce it, which is in the Richmond area, we call it Richmond, so near Christiansted. It has to be transported cross island through pipes that haven't been updated yet. So therefore, even if you have fresh pipes in front of your house, the water has corrosion, the pipes leading up to that point have corrosion and perhaps have brown look to them, might have some iron particles. So there are additives that we add to prevent corrosion. We do have a lot of old pipes and a lot more work to do. The plan to address this is through a prudent replacement project. You might have heard of that buzzword. Waste Management is further along with their prudent replacement project in St. Croix, but we are looking at submitting our scope, which means all the components, all the pipes we want to include, which are all the existing ones besides the new projects, any new redundant lines, upgrading our pumps and tanks so that our system can be putting out quality water. You kind of want to think of the production as your heart, right? And Frederickstead's way out at the fingertips. So all the way getting there will be impacts to our water quality. We can do flushing of the lines And just please call us in, call in to our communications team and dispatch to let us know, if there's a change that you're seeing. And we really hope to improve the conditions as soon as possible.
Okay. So where do they call? What number do they call?
Oh, I know the email, communications@viwapa.vi.
All right.
And if you look at our website, the phone numbers are right there too. So viwapa.vi.
So, the fact that the territory has St. Croix and possibly St. Thomas has the opportunity through the FEMA funding to replace all of the potable water lines. And with that, we will be able to eliminate all of the issues that we have now because of these old corroded rights. That was interesting to know that the water comes from Richmond all the way down to Frederickstead. That's a long way. Even your car get dirty on the way down from Christiansted to Frederickstead. But so you're doing this as you go. There's specific areas. What about the work that you've already done in Clifton Hill? How does that help?
Yeah, so those are the EPA funded projects, and those are rated on a priority scale, like the number of residents, the need. We've got all sorts of projects with EPA, but the prudent replacement is the entire district, right? And so we would prioritize our projects based on utility coordination. So our upcoming massive project will lead to is Northside, and that's really covering that heart section of our production and leading out with, if we redo those pipes, it will definitely help.
I mean, like
quality further west.
I'm excited because that means that you start getting the water starts cleaner from Christiansted as you go down to Frederickstead. I'm a panel with a bunch of St. Thomians, but trust me, that's good stuff. All right. All right. The last. We are looking forward to that happening. The last project on the west side is Mahogany Road, and DPW has been faced with some challenges. And I know that Commissioner Gabriel, you're on top of it. But before we hear some latest and greatest from you, we spoke with Sana Joseph Smith, who lives in the rainforest, who drives that Mahogany Road project all the time. Here's what she had to say.
I am elated that we are finally getting our road fixed. I was a little disappointed to hear that it was some of my very own neighbors that were holding up the process on this last leg, but I'm excited to hear that we're moving forward, hoping for a timely start and timely finish. I think that the obvious impact is that our tires, the wear and tear, one of my neighbors says she went through 7 tires in probably the last year or so, just driving our road. And so I think that's an obvious impact for those that live in this community and have to use McIntosh Memorial Drive, better known as Mahogany Road, daily. But I think one of the aspects that people don't realize that really impacts us is our quality of life. We don't get to see our friends and family as often because some of them can't even make it through the road. And my personal experience is that my mom, she can't even drive on the road because it literally makes her sick. And that's really a shame because that's one of her great pastimes. And I feel like our elders should be able to ride the road and enjoy it. Our community should be able to enjoy all the culture that this area has and that stems off of this road here.
All right, Commissioner. So, she's elated. Being able to drive the roads, I had a really bad road, probably still have it. And folks don't want to come to your house when your road's bad. They're like, I can't come to your house. They got mess up my tires. So what's the kind of progress we're making with Mahogany Road?
Yeah, so as the resident alluded to, we spent a lot of time in the acquisition and easement process throughout that project. That project is roughly, McIntosh Memorial Drive is approximately 6 miles. So there were a lot of temporary easements that we had to get all along the length of that roadway. We're finally through just about, I would say 95, 98% through the acquisition process. So we're just about ready to go to bid, which is really exciting. The design for that project is very, very comprehensive. In some areas, you will see a way more resilient roadway. And then in other areas where the road was actually decent, we'll just be doing some basic rehabilitation, milling and paving. But for the most part, we're adding drainage improvements so the roadway will last longer. We're adding more resilient asphalt. so the roadway will last longer. And I mean, it's going to be a fantastic project.
All right. Well, we're glad to hear that for the people who live in the rainforest and for those of us like me who just like to ride through the rainforest.
Right.
Excellent work. You know, there are major utility coordination projects in the works for St. Thomas as well. You know, Shavante, of course, who's here with us, spoke to her on site last week to get an update on the Watsilla project. That Watsilla project touches just about everybody. So let's take a look at the site tour that we took and update.
Over the last few months, we completed critical milestones that include the first start and 5-minute engine run of all 4 units, as well as we 100% loaded, which is 9 megawatt, 2 out of 4 of our units. We completed the medium voltage switchgear cable installation from the best medium voltage to the Randolph-Harley substation, as well as we received our first shipment of urea. Over the next few months, we intend to complete commissioning activities on LFO, which include the performance, load test, and black start testing. We intend to complete the hot commissioning for the battery energy storage system, as well as continue LPG interconnection activities. Before the close of 2023, the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority intends to have reliable and efficient generation to the St. Thomas and St. John communities.
How'd she get here so quickly?
I don't know. And she changed. She like Superwoman.
Right.
It's like, no, you know, teleport. Yes, I like teleport. That's the word. Okay, wait. So, but you hear that? The LFO for the interconnection of the RHA to the LA thing and the RA and the urea that sits in the urea deck. Shavante, what does that mean? How does this Randolph-Harley project, where actually we are, you know, you talked about commissioning. Commissioning means that this is when you're going to start up the engines or you're going to put them online. You know, use those words for me because I only did 3 days in engineering school.
So for commissioning, as Derek mentioned, the designing phase and the interconnection process of a project is so important. So the commissioning phase is really us testing all of these interconnection and these new equipment that we installed in the Watsilla for the Watsilla project. So you have to do different tests to ensure that your engine is starting. You have to put load on the engines. You have to, which is basically putting power on the engine. You're adding load from our older engines. You have to do interconnection tests, which is ensuring that you basically don't blow anything up. And working in a live plant, I would always like to say that working in a live plant where we're still trying to provide power to customers is the most difficult thing because we're different from the States. We can't just disconnect and provide work and then tie into another grid from another state or county. We have to do all this work while providing power to customers. So that's why sometimes you see press releases by our communications team stating that we have to do an outage for 2 hours as we do interconnection activities for the Watsilla project. So that's the commissioning phases. And that we need to complete those portions and those testing of the units and the battery energy storage system so that we can actually complete the project safely and efficiently to give the Virgin Islands community, especially the St. Thomas and St. John district, a great project.
You know what? So the next time we're complaining about the power being a planned outage, just remember we're trying to keep Shavante alive while she fixes the plant and brings the power online. So I mean, mad shout outs to the men and women of the Water and Power Authority. I mean, we make noise, yes, but you understand that this is a very complicated area in which you operate. We thank you for the work that you're doing. So we are looking for, there's people on St. Croix are going to benefit from the Randolph-Harley project being online as well?
Of course, we're all one territory. So when you say the more efficient units, that's cutting our costs down on fuel, which will benefit the overall community because we're the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority. We're not St. Thomas Water and Power Authority. So once we're able to bring down our fuel costs, have more efficient generation, we'll be able to provide more maintenance initiatives on the St. Croix district. But we are working towards trying to get new generation on St. Croix too. So we do have efforts where we're working with different grant agencies to get that. So although the Watsilla project will provide that overall to St. Thomas, St. Croix, and St. John by having more efficient units, we're also working in parallel to try to give St. Croix at least more efficient generation as well.
All right, I just threw her that layup at that assistant. She like, all right, well, this is perfect. Thank you But we also have some undergrounding going on or planned for St. Thomas as well.
Yes, so we have undergrounding going from the Randolph Harley substation to Strand Street, from Fort Millender to the Bridge to Nowhere. We also have Bovoni going to the East End substation, which is near Nazareth, which is close to the Udorican School. We also have the other projects on St. John going to Myra Keaton and going up to Central Line Road. So we definitely have a large amount of projects in the pipeline. We're going through the design process, the RFP processes, and with our engineers working so hard and diligently, one thing we have to pay close attention to is standardization. While we're working on these projects, we're standardizing with the DPW, we're working with water department. So we're working hard to get those projects done. So if you see any upcoming projects coming on online, you'll notice that you'll see different contractors working on the streets. You'll also see our engineers walking the line so that we can ensure that the interconnection of the different businesses and the different residents, as well as our interconnection to our electrical facilities. So we're doing a lot of work on the back end, but we definitely have great projects coming up on our transmission and our feeders.
All right, it's good to hear. Water line rehabilitation extension projects are underway on St. Croix. They're work on the way on St. Thomas, Nazareth, Dunu. The Dunu project on St. Croix is kind of synonymous with our North Side project. Dunu project on St. Thomas, the North Side project on St. Croix requires the same level of coordination, right, where there's road work, there's soup water, wastewater, what else? Undergrounding, yes. Just testing you guys, making sure that you, and those are all federally funded with different funding sources. I feel like, Commissioner, what do you think? That's like one of the major tests for utility coordination.
Oh, definitely. I think we've seen our agencies, DPW, WAPA, Waste Management, even with on the private side, Liberty and Via, we've seen our technical staffs develop relationships because they're always coordinating and communicating on these projects. I have to give WAPA a huge shout out because they actually let our contractors do a lot of the design on some of these projects, which is really, really important so that we can really fast forward and get the dollars moving for the people in the territory.
Yes.
That's the important thing.
All right, the federal dollars really are here invested for resilience and making sure there's drainage, there's culverts, everything that we need to address flooding, managing all of our infrastructure and making our roads more resilient. Every 2 years you can't mill and replace. We really got to address some of the issues that we're having. So I am truly impressed with what is going on, the complexity of the projects, but the level of coordination. So one dig is within our reach, maybe?
I feel so. It's coming.
All right. Well, we talked about Five Corners to Lorraine, utility coordination, all of the different things that's going on, and Dunu and all of that. Utility coordination is not just about the federally funded projects. We have local agencies involved. We visited with Ricardo Portela, Vice President on Technical Operations at Liberty. So it's not just you guys, the others. He shared with us the status of the fiber to home and mobile cell site projects.
We are building fiber to the home to all USVI residents and businesses. 85% of the fiber will be underground and 50% will be aerial. For the mobile, we are building 7 FirstNet cell sites for first responders, 1 more for capacity increase, and we're completing 31 with fiber. This will greatly improve the coverage and speed to all the residents, reducing dead spots and drop calls. We plan to complete these projects, the mobile part for the end of 2024 and the fiber to the home during 2026. It's super important that the utility coordination in executing the project for the safeguarding of the existing infrastructure for all the utilities in order to reduce and avoid downtime of any utility services to the USVI people. This project will bring fiber to the home and business to every resident and business in the territory. Since it's mainly underground, it will minimize any disruption to telecommunication services during and after hurricanes.
All right, well, we not only just our utilities, but the efforts that's going on with Liberty, and you're working along with Liberty as well.
Yeah, we have a great working relationship with Liberty. They're actually one of our partners on the Macintosh Memorial Drive project, which is otherwise known as Mahogany Road. I did fail to mention earlier that project is expected to kick off in December or January, so our residents in that area can be looking for construction to begin soon.
All right, well, we'll continue to work with our public, but our private partners. Before we close out, I just want to thank the viewers who continue to reach out to us on social media after the show. In addition to questions on Facebook, we also get quite a few questions and inquiries in our info box. So Elizabeth Schaefer asked, groundbreaking October 2021. The completion estimated May 2022, over a year. Past completion appears nothing has been done. Is all of the FEMA project grants still available? Exactly what is the problem, and why do so many projects linger and stall? Well, there's a lot that goes into the projects where we find that sometimes it's a funding issue with the Vincent Mason pool. When we started excavating, that we realized that the pool was on piles,
right,
and it required a change in the design, and it also required that we go back for additional funding from FEMA.
Right.
So that delay is because of needing at least twice the funding that we had, and we back out to bid. We're working, I think there was a bid walkthrough, and we should have some bids in and get this project up and running. But there's so many different things that we've talked about that impact the projects, supply chain, some of the other issues, we're working on utility coordination or other funding for other projects. But we continue to push forward. We always ask the public for patience. Doing projects with federal dollars are not always the easiest thing.
Right.
But it is good in the long run, and we were able to see that people understand that it takes a lot to make some of these happen. Well, we appreciate all of you for tuning into the first episode of our 4th season of Recovery in Focus. So you to join us next time for another informative discussion. I want to thank you again. You were the only, Commissioner Gabriel, you held it down, but you must understand. Who run the world? Girls. Thank you so much. For more information, find us online at usviodr.com. You can also keep the discussion going at facebook.com/WTJX. Thank you for watching, and we'll continue to build a legacy of resilience.